You were sitting in a rented apartment in a European capital under a name that does not belong to you. The passport in your jacket pocket says you are a Canadian telecommunications engineer named David Sullivan. The credit cards match the passport. The laptop on the kitchen table contains 3 years of fabricated emails, family photographs featuring people you have never met, and a LinkedIn profile with 400 connections, none of whom realize the person they are connected to does not exist. Your real name has not been spoken aloud in 11 days. You have been watching a building across the street for 9 of those days. A man enters that building every morning at 8:15 and leaves every evening at 6:40. He is an Iranian nuclear procurement agent operating under commercial cover, purchasing dual-use technology for a centrifuge enrichment program that 3 intelligence services have been trying to disrupt for 2 decades. You know his name. You know his home address in Tehran. You know his wife's maiden name, his daughter's school, the restaurant where he eats lunch every Thursday, and the exact route he walks when he turns left toward the metro station at the end of the block. Your job is not to arrest him. Your country has no jurisdiction here. Your job is not to follow him indefinitely. That belongs to someone else. Your job, when a single encrypted word arrives on a device disguised as an ordinary mobile phone, is to make sure this man never returns to Tehran. You work for the Mossad. Ha-Mossad Lemodian Uletafkidim Meyuchadim, the Institute for Intelligence and Special Operations, the most aggressive, most feared, and arguably most effective intelligence service on the planet, operating out of a country smaller than New Jersey. With more enemies per square mile than any nation on Earth, this is your life at every rank. Level 1, the find. You did not apply. There is no application form. There's no job listing on a government website. There's no recruiter sitting behind a folding table at a career fair. The Mossad found you. They have people whose entire job is finding people like you. You were 23 years old, finishing your mandatory military service in an IDF intelligence unit. Your commanding officer submitted your name to a database you did not know existed. Somewhere inside a building in the Glilot district, north of Tel Aviv, that is officially listed as a research institute, an analyst reviewed your military file, your psychological evaluations, your language aptitude scores, your family history going back 3 generations, and a behavioral profile assembled from interviews with people who know you personally, but were never told why they were being asked questions about your temperament and your habits and the way you handle pressure. A woman called you 6 weeks after your discharge. She said she represented a government agency she could not name. She asked if you would be willing to attend a meeting at a location she would provide on the morning of the appointment. Nothing before, no address in advance, no time to prepare. Just a phone call at 7 in the morning saying, "Be at this cafe in central Tel Aviv in 90 minutes. You went because curiosity is the first quality they select for. The woman at the cafe was in her 50s. She wore no jewelry. She carried no briefcase. She ordered coffee and spoke to you for 2 hours about your childhood, your relationships, your fears, your political beliefs, your capacity for loneliness. She never said the word Mossad. She never said the word intelligence. She asked if you had ever lied convincingly to someone you loved. You said yes because it was true, and because something in her expression told you that lying to her would be the last mistake you made in this process. She thanked you and left. You did not hear anything for 4 months. Then a letter arrived. Plain envelope, no logo. Report to this address on this date at this time. Bring nothing. Level 2, the cadet. The training academy is called the Midrasha. Its location is classified. You will spend your career acquiring them, managing them, and occasionally watching them be destroyed by the consequences of their cooperation. The tradecraft training is relentless. You learn to construct cover identities so complete that they withstand investigation by hostile counterintelligence services. You memorize your legend the way an actor memorizes a role until the fictional biography feels more familiar than your real one. You practice assuming and discarding identities in exercises conducted across European cities where instructors posing as foreign security agents attempt to expose you. You learn dead drops and brush passes and surveillance detection routes. You learn to spot a tail in a crowd of thousands by recognizing the subtle behavioral signatures that distinguish someone walking with purpose from someone walking with instructions. You learn to recruit not through ideology or patriotism, but through psychology. You study human weakness with the clinical precision of a surgeon studying anatomy. Greed, vanity, resentment, loneliness, fear. Every person you will ever recruit is driven by one of these forces. And your job is to identify which one and become the answer to it. The hardest module is resistance to interrogation. They simulate capture by a hostile intelligence service. You are hooded, stripped, subjected to sleep deprivation, temperature extremes, sensory overload, and aggressive questioning designed to crack your cover story and extract your operational details. Some cadets break within hours. The instructors are not testing your tolerance for pain. They're testing your ability to maintain a coherent lie under extreme psychological pressure. Pain is temporary. A broken cover identity kills everyone connected to the operation. You endure. You graduate. There is no ceremony. A senior officer you've never met shakes your hand in a corridor and says 2 words, "Welcome home." Level 3, the Junior Katsa. Your first operational posting is a country in Western Europe. You live there under a cover identity with a full legend. You are employed by a front company that functions as a real business, importing agricultural equipment from suppliers who do not know their invoices are processed by an Israeli intelligence officer. You attend trade conferences. You have business cards. You file tax returns in your cover name in your cover country. The only people who know you are Mossad are your station chief and the desk officer at headquarters who manages your file. Your mission is to recruit sources with access to information Israel cannot obtain through signals intelligence or satellite imagery. Human intelligence, the kind that requires a person sitting inside an enemy's decision-making apparatus, reading documents they are not supposed to read, and passing the contents to you through channels designed to be invisible. Your first target is a mid-level diplomat from a country that publicly condemns Israel while privately conducting back-channel negotiations on water rights and counterterrorism cooperation. You know when a meeting feels wrong. You know when a source is lying or has been turned by the opposition. You know when to abort an operation 30 seconds before the plan says you should, because something in the atmosphere has shifted in a way you cannot articulate, but have learned never to ignore. Your current posting is a target country, not a friendly European capital with reliable infrastructure and professional police forces, a place where discovery means interrogation and imprisonment and possibly execution. You operate without diplomatic cover. If the local security services catch you, Israel will deny your existence. There will be no prisoner exchange, no diplomatic intervention, no rescue operation. You are alone behind the deepest possible cover, living a life so thoroughly fabricated that some mornings you wake up and need 3 full seconds to remember which name is real. Your agent network in this country produces intelligence that reaches the Prime Minister's desk within hours. Troop movements, weapons development timelines, the private conversations of military commanders discussing contingency plans for a conflict with Israel. This intelligence shapes national defense decisions. It saves lives measured in thousands. It also destroys the lives of the people who provide it. 3 of your former agents across your career have been discovered. 1 was imprisoned for 18 years. 1 was executed by a military tribunal. 1 disappeared into a detention system so opaque that no international organization has confirmed whether he is alive or dead. You carry their code names in a part of your mind that does not shut down when you want it to. Level 5, the Neviot operative. You transferred to Neviot, the department responsible for surveillance and technical operations. You are a specialist now. Your job is to break into places that are not supposed to be breakable. Embassy communications rooms, government server facilities, hotel rooms occupied by targets who are about to have a very private conversation that Israel needs to hear. You pick locks designed to resist picking. You plant listening devices smaller than a fingernail inside telephones and light fixtures and electrical outlets. You crack safes manufactured by companies that guarantee their products are impenetrable. The guarantee is wrong. You can open most of them in under 4 minutes. You photograph documents and return them to their exact original positions, adjusting for the angle of light and the placement of surrounding objects using reference photographs taken before you touched anything. The work requires an obsessive attention to detail that borders on psychological compulsion. A single hair displaced from a desk surface can alert a trained counterintelligence officer that someone has been in the room. A microscopic scratch on a locked cylinder visible only under magnification can expose an entry operation that took 6 months to plan. You leave no trace, not because it is your preference, but because the agent whose office you entered will be arrested and possibly killed if anyone suspects the room was compromised. Your hands are perfectly steady. They have to be. The margin between a successful operation and a catastrophic failure is measured in millimeters. Level 6, the Kidon operative. Kidon, the tip of the spear, the unit within the Caesarea division that conducts the operations no one discusses in any public forum and no official has ever confirmed exists. You rehearse in a facility in the Negev desert that contains full-scale replicas of the operational environment, the street, the building, the room. You walk through it dozens of times until your body performs the sequence from memory, and your conscious mind is free to process the variables that rehearsal cannot predict. The operation itself takes seconds. The preparation takes months. You're in a foreign country under a false passport carrying equipment that was smuggled in through a diplomatic pouch or assembled from commercially available components purchased locally under a cover identity. You execute the mission. You extract through a route that disperses your team across 3 separate countries within 6 hours. By the time the local police establish a crime scene, you are boarding a commercial flight under a name that will never be used again. You land in Tel Aviv. You debrief for 9 hours. You go home. You sit in your apartment in a country the size of a county in most American states, and you eat dinner, and you wonder whether the person you were 12 hours ago is the same person holding this fork. The answer changes depending on the night. Level 7, the department chief. You command an operational department. Perhaps it is Tzomet, the collections division responsible for all human intelligence operations worldwide. Perhaps it is Caesarea, the division that houses Kidon and manages the deepest cover operatives living abroad for years under assumed identities. You are responsible for hundreds of officers and thousands of agents distributed across every continent. You sit in the headquarters complex and make decisions that determine whether an operation proceeds or is aborted, whether an agent is recruited or abandoned, whether a target is neutralized or allowed to continue operating. Your desk receives raw intelligence from every active station around the world. You synthesize it. You prioritize it. You brief it upward to the deputy director and the director in a daily meeting that lasts 45 minutes and covers material that most governments would classify above top secret. Your officers trust you because you have done every job you are now asking them to do. You have lived undercover. You have recruited agents who betrayed their countries because you made betrayal feel like the rational choice. You have conducted operations that required you to become someone else entirely for months at a time. This shared experience is the foundation of authority within the Mossad. Rank alone commands nothing here. Experience commands everything. You also bear responsibility when operations collapse. An operation in a Gulf state is compromised when a team member's cover passport is flagged by a border system that received a software update your technical division did not anticipate. Your officer is detained and interrogated for 19 days before the diplomatic consequences are resolved through channels so deep that no public record of the incident will ever surface. You write the internal review. You identify every failure point. You implement corrective protocols. And late at night, you carry the weight of knowing that your officer spent nearly 3 weeks in a foreign detention facility because a variable slipped through a gap in your planning. Level 8, the Deputy Director. You sit at a table with 5 other people who collectively control the entire operational and analytical output of the Mossad. The Director chairs the meeting. You are his operational deputy. Everything that happens in the field flows through your authority before it reaches his desk. You are the filter between the chaos of global intelligence operations and the strategic clarity the director needs to advise the Prime Minister. You attend weekly meetings at the Prime Minister's office in Jerusalem. You sit beside the heads of Shin and Aman, military intelligence, and you present the Mossad's assessment of every active threat facing the State of Israel. Iran's nuclear program, Hezbollah's missile arsenal, Hamas operational capabilities. Emerging threats from state and non-state actors operating across a region where the distance between peace and war is measured in hours rather than years. You have spent 26 years in the service. You have lived more years under assumed names than under your real one. Your children grew up knowing their father worked for the government and understanding from a remarkably young age that questions about the specifics would never receive answers. She sits with you on the nights when sleep will not come and does not ask what you are thinking about. She already knows the answer is something she cannot be told. Level 9. The Ramad. Rosh Mossad, the Director. You are appointed directly by the Prime Minister. Your name is made public, one of the very few identities in the entire organization that the state acknowledges. You sit at the absolute pinnacle of an intelligence service built on a single founding principle. Never again. Never again will the Jewish people be defenseless. Never again will they depend on the goodwill of foreign nations for their survival. The Mossad exists because a small country surrounded by larger hostile neighbors decided that intelligence would be its primary instrument of national defense, more critical than any tank division or fighter squadron, or the nuclear capability it neither confirms nor denies possessing. You manage a global apparatus with officers operating in dozens of countries, agents embedded inside governments and organizations that seek Israel's destruction, and technical capabilities that rival or exceed those belonging to nations 10 times Israel's size. You meet regularly with the directors of the CIA, MI6, the BND, and the DGSE. You share intelligence selectively, revealing enough to sustain partnerships Israel depends on, while concealing enough to protect sources and methods that remain exclusively Israeli assets. Every relationship is transactional. Every handshake is calculated. Every piece of intelligence shared has been evaluated not only for its accuracy, but for what it inadvertently reveals about your capabilities to the receiving service, analyzed from an adversarial perspective. You brief the Prime Minister in a secure room in Jerusalem. You present options that range from diplomatic to kinetic, and everything between. You recommend courses of action. The Prime Minister decides. Sometimes the decision aligns with your recommendation. Sometimes it contradicts everything you advised. You execute regardless because the Mossad serves the elected government of the State of Israel, not the personal judgment of its director. You carry the cumulative weight of every operation authorized during your tenure. The successes that prevented attacks and disrupted weapons programs and eliminated threats the Israeli public will never learn existed. The failures that cost lives and created diplomatic crises and produced consequences still reverberating years later. Both categories belong to you. The successes are credited to the institution. The failures are attributed to your name. There is no peace at this altitude. You sleep 4 hours on the best nights. Your security detail accompanies you everywhere. You cannot walk through a market in Tel Aviv or sit in a restaurant in Jerusalem without armed personnel positioned at calculated intervals, scanning every face and every hand and every vehicle within a defined perimeter. You are the most protected individual in Israel who is not the Prime Minister. You are also among the most targeted. Foreign intelligence services and terrorist organizations and state-sponsored programs have identified you by name and by photograph, and by the routes your motorcade travels between your residence and your office. You live inside a security architecture designed to keep you alive long enough to do the job that makes you a target. The circularity of this does not escape you. Successor, and walk out of the building in Glilot and stand in the Israeli sun. And for the first time in decades, you are no one's commander, and no one's target, and no one's director. Your tenure ends, perhaps after 4 years, perhaps 6. You hand the office to your... You are a person with a name that has been public for several years, attached to a career that is almost entirely classified. You cannot write the memoir that would explain your life, because the operational details are protected by laws that carry prison sentences. The people closest to you understood the silences. The people beyond that circle never will. Somewhere in Israel right now, a 23-year-old is sitting in a cafe in Tel Aviv. A woman in her 50s approaches the table and orders coffee. She asks quiet questions about childhood, about loneliness, about whether the young person has ever lied convincingly to someone they loved. The conversation lasts 2 hours. The woman leaves without saying who she represents. Weeks pass, months. Then a plain envelope arrives. No logo, no return address. Report to this location on this date. Bring nothing. The young person stands in their apartment holding the letter and feeling the gravitational pull of something vast and invisible and irreversible. They do not know about the years spent under assumed names in foreign cities. The agents recruited through patience and psychological precision. The operations that ended lives in hotel rooms and on city streets.